As they got closer to the temple steps, they realized this wasn't going to be some quick in-and-out mission. But it wasn't just seeing Imperial troops that freaked them out. The temple looked like a fortress now. Then all hell broke loose. Dozens of clone troopers came out of nowhere, all around the temple grounds. Their blasters went off at the exact same time, creating this wall of deadly light. Yoda's green lightsaber turned into a blur as he flipped through the air like some kind of ninja, taking down multiple enemies at once. Obi-Wan's blue blade cut through the air with perfect technique, creating this shield of light that nothing could get through. But no matter how many clones they cut down, more kept coming. Clone commanders with jetpacks started diving down from the temple's upper levels like some kind of death squad. Troopers coordinated their attacks with impossible precision, executing complex maneuvers that would have required weeks of practice. At the top of the temple's steps stood Mortiferous. The battle that followed shook the temple to its very foundations, threatening to bring down walls that had stood for millennia. 3 masters of the Force clashed in a deadly dance of light and shadow. He took a brief pause and said, "Welcome back to Star Wars District. We all know how Order 66 went down. The Jedi Order fell, the Empire rose. Yoda and Obi Wan barely made it out alive, but they still had one last job to do. They had to get back to the Jedi Temple and shut down the beacon that was luring any surviving Jedi straight into a trap. But what if things went way worse than they expected? What if they ran into something much more terrifying than just clone troopers? Well, in this darker timeline, that's exactly what happened. Now, let's resume. The trip back to Coruscant felt like flying straight into hell. When their ship came down through the planet's atmosphere, both masters could feel something was seriously wrong. Coruscant looked different. Sure, the city lights still stretched on forever, but Imperial patrols were everywhere, moving like robots through the sky lanes. All those Republic banners? Gone, replaced with the Empire's cold, scary symbols. They landed near the temple, and immediately both of them felt the Force screaming in pain. You could almost taste the death in the air. All those Jedi, kids, students, masters, everyone had died in one horrible night. But there was something else lurking in those temple walls. Something much worse. As they got closer to the temple steps, they realized this wasn't going to be some quick in-and-out mission. The temple looked like a fortress now. Those steps where thousands of Jedi used to walk in peace. Now, they were covered with blast barriers, big weapons, and searchlights sweeping back and forth like mechanical eyes. But it wasn't just seeing Imperial troops that bothered them. These clone troopers were moving all wrong. During the war, each clone unit had its own personality, its own style. These guys, they moved like one giant machine. No individual thoughts, no hesitation, just cold, perfect coordination. Then all hell broke loose. Dozens of clone troopers came out of nowhere, all around the temple grounds. Their blasters went off at the exact same time, creating this wall of deadly light that should have fried anyone trying to get in. But Yoda could sense something really messed up about these clones. They felt empty, like someone had ripped out their souls and replaced them with something cold and calculating. Yoda's green lightsaber turned into a blur as he flipped through the air like some kind of ninja. The guy might be tiny and ancient, but he moved like lightning, blocking dozens of shots while taking down multiple enemies at once. Obi-Wan's blue blade cut through the darkness with perfect technique, creating this shield of light that nothing could get through. But here's the thing. No matter how many clones they cut down, more kept coming. These soldiers had no fear, no hesitation, no survival instinct. They just kept charging forward like machines, even as their buddies were getting sliced up all around them. Then, things got even crazier. Clone commanders with jetpacks started diving down from the temple's upper levels like some kind of death squad. But their armor had these weird symbols on it, ancient markings that definitely weren't Imperial. These looked like old Sith stuff, and they were actually glowing with dark energy. These aerial troopers coordinated their attack with impossible precision, executing complex maneuvers that would have required weeks of practice. Was this battle meditation? No, Yoda quickly decided to himself. Yoda could feel this dark presence around the soldiers getting stronger with every second. Whatever was controlling these clones was using them like puppets, seeing through their eyes, thinking through their minds. It was seriously messed up and made the old master's skin crawl. Finally, they reached the temple's main entrance, but there was an entire battalion of clones blocking their way. And these weren't just any soldiers. These were the elite troops that had been stationed at the temple during Order 66. The same ones who had killed all those kids were now standing between them and their goal. But something was different about these clones too. Their armor had been modified with more of those Sith symbols. Their weapons were humming with dark side energy. And their eyes? Their eyes were glowing with that sick amber color you see in Fallen Jedi. Yoda and Obi Wan fought together like true Jedi, moving in perfect sync with the Force as their guide. The fight at the entrance was brutal but quick, but these enhanced clones were stronger, faster, and way more dangerous than anything they'd faced before. When the last trooper went down, everything went deadly quiet. No more blaster fire, no more sounds of battle. Even the usual noise from Coruscant's traffic seemed muted, like the whole planet was holding its breath. It began to feel unnerving. After a few calming breaths, the Force alerted both Jedi to danger. A sudden shroud of thick smoke clouded the battlefield. Then, as the smoke cleared, someone walked out of the temple entrance. Both Jedi Masters recognized the silhouette immediately, but something was seriously wrong with how this person was moving. No walking stick, despite obviously being hurt badly. And those robes? They seemed to suck up all the light around them, making the air feel colder just by being there. When the figure finally stepped into the light, both Jedi nearly had heart attacks. It was Mace Windu. But this wasn't the tough, no-nonsense master they remembered from the Jedi Council. His body was covered in terrible scars from his fall out of Palpatine's office, burn marks from Force lightning, injuries from falling through Coruscant's skyline. Yet somehow he was standing there, strong as ever, like death had just bounced right off him. His Force aura was impossibly dense and heavy. Everything about him screamed danger now. Those brown Jedi robes? Gone. Now he wore deep black robes that seemed to eat light. But the worst part was his eyes. They weren't the focused, determined eyes of a Jedi Master anymore. They looked like they can see straight through your soul, but they glowed with that sick amber color of the Sith. And in his hands? Yes, both. Not his famous purple lightsaber. This was replaced by a blood-red blade that pulsed like it was alive and hungry. Both Yoda and Mace were happy to see their old friend, but they are not dull. They knew something was very wrong here. Plus, the Force was screaming at them something even more terrifying. This wasn't just some Jedi who'd snapped after almost dying. Mace Windu's body had become a host for something ancient and evil that should have stayed dead. The spirit of Darth Plagueis, the Wise, that Sith Lord who figured out how to cheat death, had found himself a new body. Windu's brush with death at the hands of Sidious and Anakin had given the ancient Sith the strength, motivation, and the perfect chance to possess Mace. The entity that wore Windu's face spoke with a voice that carried the weight of centuries of dark knowledge. Each word dripped with malice and ancient wisdom. It introduced itself as Darth Mortiferous, the Deathbringer, a title that reflected both Plagueis' mastery over death and his new host's reputation as one of the deadliest lightsaber duelists in Jedi history. Mortiferous explained how he had been waiting, watching, planning from beyond the veil of death for many years. Palpatine's betrayal of the Jedi had provided the perfect opportunity. Windu's fall from the Chancellor's office had opened a rare doorway between life and death, and the ancient Sith Lord had walked through it into a new existence. The battle that followed shook the temple to its very foundations, threatening to bring down walls that had stood for millennia. Three Masters of the Force clashed in a deadly dance of light and shadow that would have been impossible for ordinary beings to follow. Yoda and Obi Wan fought with desperate fury, their combined experience of nearly 1,000 years driving them to heights of skill they had rarely achieved. But Mortiferous wielded powers that had been thought lost to time, abilities that Plagueis had perfected during his centuries of dark side research. The possessed Windu moved with impossible speed and strength that defied the physical limitations of his scarred form. He seemed to exist in multiple places at once, his blade appearing to block attacks from impossible angles. But his most terrifying ability was how he bent reality itself to his will. The temple's ancient stones cracked and shifted under the pressure of his power. Gravity seemed to fluctuate around him, allowing him to move in ways that shouldn't have been possible. The very air grew thick with malevolent energy that made breathing difficult. However, Yoda sensed something beneath the overwhelming darkness. Deep within the corrupted form, a spark of Mace Windu's original spirit remained trapped but not destroyed. The ancient master reached out through the Force, not to attack, but to communicate, to remind the lost Jedi of who he had been. Obi Wan followed his lead. Together they spoke to the man beneath the monster, recalling moments of honor and sacrifice that had defined Windu's life. Their words, backed by pure intention, began creating cracks in Plagueis's hold. For a brief moment, Windu's true spirit fought back against his possessor. His amber eyes flickered between Sith corruption and human determination. The internal struggle manifested as visible conflict within his form. It was then that Mortiferous revealed his true plan. The ancient Sith Lord hadn't returned to serve Palpatine. He wanted to overthrow the Emperor and claim the galaxy for himself. His version of balance wasn't the harmony Jedi sought. It was the cold equilibrium of death, where all life would eventually serve his eternal will. He proposed an alliance. His knowledge of the dark side's deepest secrets, combined with their mastery of the Force, could topple the Emperor and restore order to the galaxy. Yoda and Obi Wan realized they faced an impossible choice that would echo through the ages. They both knew that history would judge them harshly. They could reject Mortiferous's offer and likely die in the temple, leaving the galaxy to Palpatine's mercy. Or they could accept this devil's bargain, using the Sith Lord's power to destroy the Emperor, while knowing they might be unleashing something far worse. But these were Jedi Masters, tempered by wisdom and guided by the light. They recognized that defeating one tyrant by empowering another would only perpetuate the cycle of darkness. However, Yoda and Obi Wan understood their reality. The gravity of their situation was heavy. The Jedi Order was no more. They do not have the resources they have become accustomed to. Plus, they are enemies of the Empire. The last Jedi Masters regrettably understood that they needed every advantage they could get against Palpatine. Instead of outright rejecting Mortiferous, they chose a different path. They would work with him, but not as his servants. They would use his hatred of his former apprentice against the Emperor, while secretly planning to find a way to free Mace Windu's soul and banish Plagueis back to the realm of the dead. The possessed Windu laughed as he sensed their decision. He believed he had won them over, that they would serve him once Palpatine fell. But the ancient Jedi Masters had learned patience over centuries of conflict. They could pretend to serve while planning their true strike. Mortiferous began sharing Palpatine's greatest vulnerabilities. The Emperor's addiction to power had made him predictable. His need for control had created blind spots. And most importantly, his fear of death had made him dependent on Sith rituals that could be turned against him. As the temple's damaged walls bore witness to their unholy alliance, Yoda and Obi Wan began planning the downfall of not one but two Sith Lords. They would use Mortiferous's knowledge to destroy Palpatine. Let me know if you enjoyed this fanfiction. Then they would find a way to free Mace Windu's soul and banish Plagueis back to the realm of the dead. Keep watching my other videos as I work on my next fanfiction. The galaxy's fate now rested on their ability to walk the razor's edge between light and darkness. Please hit the like and subscribe button. They had become players in a game where victory meant dancing with devils while never losing their souls. In the shadows of the fallen temple, 3 unlikely conspirators began plotting the downfall of Darth Sidious. This is where we will stop the story for now. Take care.